Hey there YouTube, this is Galahad from Team Runecraft, coming at you with some new content. What we're going to do today is we're actually going to go over our first deck profile. We're going to go over Tempo Runecraft, specifically the Daria versions. Now, since it's the most popular deck in the game, and personally I like Erasmus more than Isabel, I call mine the Old Man and the Duck. So let's take a look at what we got. Alright. Pretty standard format. We do have a couple of key changes that I like to do versus what the usual is. We have our insights, of course. You know, we're going to have our Levi's, mandatory 3 of in every single Runecraft deck. Easily one of the best cards. We've got our Craigs, you know, very standard. I opted for Magic Missile over Angelic Snipe, or any of the other variations therein. I personally think that Magic Missile and being able to cantrip and actually just, you know, go from there is ultimately better for the deck as a whole. I've had a lot of success with it. You know, it's only one more than Angelic Snipe. I get the extra card. I'm willing to get an Angelic Snipe and an Insight rolled into one for 2. I think that's personally better. You know, you got your Conjure Golems, 2-drop 2/2 spell, activating your spell boost. I only play 2 Emilu because I don't like flooding with her. You know, you've got your 3 Clarks. I like to get the 1 of Demonic Strike because guess what? Crimson Sorceries are great, and even if you got to pay 3 more for it, 3 damage to the face is still a thing. Piercing Runes, of course. Dance of Death because we don't want to play Call of Cocytus or anything like that because we just need the damage. We want to get damage into leader. This is a tempo deck. We want to be able to keep up pressure. Ogglers, of course, powerhouse card. Fate's Hand. Drawing cards is a thing. This deck needs to be able to do a lot of it. It's also a spell by itself. You get to spell boost it, and you're going to be able to play this usually for 3 or less. You know, you got your Blade Mages, of course, get the damage in. We've got our Darias, because this is the card that makes the deck work. The deck's good without her. Very solid without her. She makes the deck just absurd. Like, you can go into plays, you can recover from Bahamut's, you can do all kinds of things off of a Daria, and she's just nuts. Now, I play 2 Flame Destroyers. I have been pretty torn about this, like, because I had 2 open slots in the deck, and I opted for Flame Destroyer over the other potential cards in the deck. Flame Destroyer giving me another big win con other than Daria herself. You know, he's going to allow for a lot of damage really fast. You need to put a big guy down in a situation. He's not bad. If you don't open up with a Daria, opening up with a Flame Destroyer is also a very good opening, because if you've got your Clark, you've got your Craig, you know, you're spell boosting all the time, you can typically get him out on turn 4 or 5, and oftentimes that's lethal. Because if you've been pressuring your opponent and really putting them in a spot where they don't want to be, Flame Destroyer typically will just put that over the edge. You gotta watch out for the Dance of Death, the Call of Cocytus, you know, stuff like that, but I have had a lot of success with Flame Destroyer. I'm still kind of torn. I'm not sure if I want to play the Merlin or not. And like you'll notice, there's a very significant lack of Merlin in this deck. I think Merlin's a very powerful card, but I have had so much success with Flame Destroyer, I'm having a really hard time actually taking it out of the deck. But this is definitely one of the techs that I use. I teched the Demonic Strikes, Magic Missiles, stuff like that. Everything else is fairly standard. I don't use Kaleidoscope. I don't actually like the card. I don't use Angelic Snipe, you know, stuff like that. Your typical spell boost decks, you know, if you're playing D-Shift Daria, if you're playing, you know, just a standard D-Shift deck, if you're playing a Mithril Golem deck, I've actually come up with an idea for a Mithril Golem deck that makes him a legitimate card. It's a, you know, it's your D-Shift type deck, but I run the Mithril Golem as well, because who doesn't like a board wipe on a body? It's a very, very powerful set of effects. But this is pretty much what I'm going with right now. Had a ton of success with it. It's a very, very powerful deck. You know, Clark reduces everything. Spell boosts all your followers by 2. Craig spell boosts 1 of your followers by 2. Emilu gets smaller, like gets easier and easier to play, along with Ogler, Blade Mage, Daria, and Flame Destroyer. So the deck just works well together. It synergizes extremely, extremely well together. There's a reason why this deck is the most popular meta deck. It's the most played meta deck. Because of that, that's why I call it the Old Man in the Duck, because if you're gonna cheese with something, cheese hard. Alright, so let's go ahead and test this out a couple of times. So we're gonna go into Ranked. We are gonna show off the Old Man in the Duck. And let's see what we can do. Now, with this, I'm typically going to go over some of the, possible mulligans. If you're going first, you typically want a Daria in your opening hand. You want to have her there. You don't want a hard mulligan for her. You don't want to drop everything. Like, if you've got a Levi and a Piercing Rune, that's an amazing opening hand. I try to keep Conjure Golem, Craig, Clark occasionally. It really depends on what we're looking at. So, personally, I like going second. I like being on... I like having the extra draw. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the Fate's Hand here, because even though we do have the Magic Missile, we can get into it a little faster. We've got the Craig here, so we want to see what we can get from that. Now, we did open the Flame Destroyers. This is actually the reason why I picked Flame Destroyer over, Merlin, something like that. And there's the Levi. Fantastic turn 5 play. So turn 2, we're going to go into the Craig, get the Flame Destroyer. Turn 3, we're probably going to end up dropping the Magic Missile. Ooh. Well, that's a thing. Always prioritize the Daria over the Flame Destroyer. Like, even if you get the both of them, prioritize the Daria. She is going to be consistently better. Flame Destroyer is great. Absolutely phenomenal card, but Daria is the better of the two. And that's exactly what we don't want to see. So the reason why we traded with the Unica is because there's no actual point in hitting her with a Unica on board. Because I'm only dealing 2 damage, she's going to be gaining that back. It's really not a play that we want to make. So we don't have a turn 4 play, which is actually really bad.
You gonna mess with me?
Alright, so this is a Nephthys Last Words variant. Ooh, there we go. Clark coming in to save the day. So the Daria that we're actually looking at playing is going to be this 4-drop Daria right here. We're not going to worry about this one. I do want to try to get the Flame Destroyer down beforehand, but we do have the Mage for next turn. Our turn 5 Levi is going to be fantastic. We've got the Dance of Death should something go seriously wrong. This guy can only attack enemy leaders and followers with Ward, but of course, the Necro Assassin is going to put us into a bad spot. So the Nephthys deck, the Last Words Nephthys deck, is more similar to... Last Words Nephthys is basically a control deck.
Just a mage who's as old as dirt. Here we go. It's just like that.
And that's what, that's a lot of what it actually does. Is it will.
It's so quiet.
Let's see. Do you want to go ahead and play the Craig? I actually want to put the point on Flame Destroyer here, because the Daria is actually low enough that I feel very confident in playing her later in the game. I want to be able to get that Flame Destroyer out next turn. I want to try to get it down before Kawi hits the field. I want to put as much hurt on that as possible. I want to get as much damage in before turn 8. Okay, yeah, no, I definitely should have played the Daria in that case. I should have boosted the Daria. I get greedy sometimes with that Flame Destroyer. Having that is just a really, really nice piece. So it's hard to say no to that. So the Soul Conversion on the Lurching Corpse is going to kill him off. I don't want to be eating a bunch of damage from this. I need to be able to buy myself some time. So I'm probably going to end up using the Crimson Sorcery on the Lick over here. Because this is the card, out of everything in my hand, I want to use the Crimson Sorcery first.
I'll live again!
So I can either play the Emilu here, go to 0 with Daria, which I'm actually inclined to do because of the amount of cards that I have left in the deck and the amount of chances that I'm going to get into stuff. Plus I've got plenty of opening plays. I'm actually going to do that. Because I'll have plenty of plays next turn. And drew into a whole lot of nothing. Not a problem. It's not a big deal whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and evolve the Emu. I'll save that point. I'll let her gain the 1 health back. I'll let her keep that, because if we run into the Levi later, that's going to be such a better play that it's going to be almost just ridiculous to actually evolve it now. There's too many other cards in this deck that are valuable to waste that right now. The thing is, we do want to try trading here, because if he does go into the Kawi, then, well, if he goes into the Kawi, he hasn't used any evolution points, he's going to trade in. Or he would trade in here, and I could trade in there, or trade that and then that, so that he can't actually get any value out of the Kawi. But that won't be for another turn, so we're actually not going to do any evolving right now. The Spartoy is super incredibly annoying, but it happens. Now, what he should... Yeah, there it goes. Right into here. So I'm going to end up hitting that thing with the magic missile.
I lost?
Trading an Emilu into the Unica. Likely. We'll see what I draw. I drew into the Piercing Rune. And that changes a lot. I do want to go ahead and use the magic missile here, because I want to be able to get some damage in. So we drew into that. I'm looking for the Levi. That's what I really, really want. See, here's where things get tricky. Because I can play the Clark now, but I don't really want to. So I'm going to go ahead and get some damage here. Like, the pinging... Wow. Wow, guys, like, this is something else. Like, that's just ridiculous. So the reason why we're evolving the Emilu here is because we want to use that Piercing Rune on the Unica. We're going to get some damage in. And we can still do a nice trade on a Kawi next turn, should the worst happen. That was 9 damage right there, and that was the big point of that. We want to get the damage in. We're going to be able to play the Flame Destroyer soon. I do want to get the Clark and the Conjure Golem down first. Whenever I play the Clark next turn, I'll be able to get the Blade Mage for free. Getting that Conjure Golem in is going to be icing on the cake. I'm really... Alright, I'm going to be honest, guys. I have no idea what's happening now. I've never seen a Kai'Sa come down. It just seems interesting. And I'm not quite sure why he evolved the Emperor, because Emperor trading in is not as good as the Carrot trading in. Nothing of what he's doing makes sense. So we're going to go ahead and just play the Insight. We want to get the card draw. Fate's Hand is good. Let's go ahead and get the Clark down. Get the Blade Mage, get the Conjure Golem. And we're going to put the Hurt on him. We'll be able to play the Fate's Hand and the... We're going to play the Fate's Hand, Flame Destroyer next turn, should the worst happen. If he drops the Nephthys, there's not a lot we can do. Like, we're not in a good spot. We really wanted to see that other Daria after the Daria play. We do only have 18 cards left in the deck, which means that we have a 1 in 6 chance of drawing the final Daria. We're looking for the Nephthys. He's digging to see what he can find. The thing is, because of Fate's Hand, if he doesn't kill at least one of these units next turn, I can put him in a very, very dangerous situation. Piercing Rune kills him. The Dance of Death kills him. I can't get the Levi anymore because I don't have any more evolution points. That's okay, because I have a bunch of different options here. I honestly didn't see the Death Brand coming because you just don't see that often.
I'll show you.
Yeah, he's doing this very almost control Shadowcraft-ish type deck. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm not really sure what's happening. Like, this is just very, very confusing deck. I could always play the Fate's Hand here, but I want to get that Flame Destroyer on the board. He just burned 2 kill spells. He burned 2 Death's Brand. This is going to put him in a very bad situation. He doesn't have any evolution points left. He's got to have some type of necromancy to deal with this thing. You know, he's either got to have the Foul Tempest, the Death's Breath. He's going to have the there's a 2-drop necromancy that deals 2 damage. Lucifer works. Lucifer plays. Alright, that's well done. Alright, so now it's just Lucy v Flame Destroyer. If I can get 4 damage, I can just call it game. That is not 4 damage. Let's see what we can get out of a Fate's Hand. Oh, there's the Daria. Thank you.
It's knowledge I seek.
You know what? I just want to harass him. Honestly, I want to get bodies on board. I want to put some hurt in, because I can play the Daria next turn, and he now has to find a way to resolve all of these things. He's going to go up to 8, so that's going to put me in a slightly worse position. That's bad. Like, actively bad.
Bow to the gourmet emperor!
Let's see. If I swing in there, he's going to... I can always just reset with Daria. Well, that's curious. Alright, there's nothing we can do about Kawi. So we have the choice here of giving him the Flame Destroyer, because he's going to take it no matter what. Putting him back up to 15, killing off the Lucifer, playing the Daria seems like the best play here. Because that Lucifer has now become a problem. He wasn't that big of an issue before, we could pressure him. But the Kawi coming down put us into a really bad spot, so we're going to go ahead and play the Daria.
This fate is
With a
unjust.
bang and a boom!
That was the last Daria, though, so we do have to kind of be careful from here. We're going to go ahead and play the Ogler, play the Fate's Hand. Let's see, we're down to 6 cards left in deck, so, well, 4 cards left in deck. We've got to be careful on this one. I want to go ahead and get the Conjure Golem down. Alright, so we've got game. If he can't gain any more life, we're playing another Kawi. Because if he plays the Kawi, he's going to take the Daria, and there's not going to be anything I can do about that unless I try to Demonic Strike my own Daria. But this is 11 damage here. I've got 2 damage here and 3 damage here, so that is still game if he puts down a single body. Alright, Gourmet Emperor coming down. He's not going to play the Kawi. I've got game. Nothing else he can do about this. The carrots are cool, but... and they're an effective usage of it. I've never actually seen that before. Very impressed with this guy's deck. I'm actually just going to Piercing Rune him to death.
I'll blow you to bits!
Mostly just because I like Piercing Rune more than Demonic Strike.
Wrong!
But coming off a bad set of plays, coming off of just a very difficult series right there with opening up with so many Darias, this was pretty much exactly what happens with this deck. Now we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up here, guys. That match took a lot longer than I expected it to, so the video is running kind of long. But we'll give you one more look at the deck just to kind of see what you're looking at. So let's go ahead and pull that back up. For those of you who stayed to the end, we're going to take a look at this one more time. Now, the cards that I would say if you were going to change anything. Magic Missile is always up for grabs. I personally prefer it, but again, that is more of a personal card. A lot of people like using Kaleidoscope. It's also a very, very powerful card. That is actually over here, for those of you who are wondering. Kaleidoscopic Glow. Return a card that costs 2 play points or less to the player's hand and draw a card. So it is going to be able to cantrip. You're going to be able to return something, whether that's your own Craig, your own Levi, one of their cards. You know, very, very effective card. I like damage. I like being aggressive with this deck and really putting your opponents into a bad spot. So that's one of the reasons I prefer Magic Missile. That 1 point has saved me a lot of times. It's been a very, very effective card. The one other card that I would say, there's 2 other cards that I would say definitely take a look at if you were looking at changing anything. Demonic Strike, you can do a lot with this. You can change that up. That's basically just a one-off because I didn't want to run a 3rd Flame Destroyer. And Flame Destroyer. Those are the 3 cards that if you were going to change something, kind of like make it into your own deck, those are the ones that I would definitely take a look at, because the rest of this core is very, very tight. It's really hard to move around. I don't recommend changing the Dance of Death because that has been so insanely effective. The only other card that I would say, like, even consider is the 8-drop sorcery. I forget what it's actually called, though. Let's go ahead and go way back to the back on Runecraft here. so I can show you guys in case you were looking at it. There's an 8-drop spell, Fiery Embrace. Destroy an enemy follower, spell boost, subtract 1 more. That's the reason why some people do prefer to play the Fiery Embrace. Personally, I think Dance of Death is great. I've never had an issue playing it. I've had some times where I'd be like, you know what, I'd rather play the Daria, but the Dance of Death has always been an effective card for me, so I definitely think it's probably something that I wouldn't change. But, of course, whenever you make your deck, you're going to have to make it however you like. But, thanks for bearing with me, guys. I do appreciate all of your time. Now, if you like this content, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and if you want to see more Shadowverse coming out from us. Thank you, and have a good one.